Good morning. Thank you for joining us here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida for Space Shuttle Atlantis' STS-135 pre-countdown status briefing. It's L-3 here at Kennedy on Space Shuttle Atlantis' final flight and the final flight of the Space Shuttle program. I'd like to introduce our panelists today. Jeremy Graber, NASA Test Director.
Good morning.
Joe DeLay, STS-135 Payload Manager.
Good morning.
And Kathy Winters, Shuttle Weather Officer.
Good morning.
We'll hear from our panelists and then take questions. Jeremy.
Thanks, Candria. Good morning, everybody. Let's see, I hope everyone had a great 4th of July holiday yesterday. I can't think of a better way to start off the week. 4th of July on Monday and the start of the STS-135 launch countdown today, followed up by launch on Friday. Looking forward to a great week here. Our teams here at Kennedy Space Center and all the NASA centers across the country have been working for over a year to prepare Atlantis, the external tank, our solid rocket boosters, the payload, and all of our ground systems for the STS-135 mission. All of our preparations for launch countdown have been completed or are in work, and we're working no issues at this time. Over the past 10 days, we've completed several major milestones leading up to launch countdown. Ordnance installation, final pressurization of our orbiter maneuvering system and main propulsion system high-pressure tanks, and the final closure of Atlantis' payload bay doors were all completed last week with no issues. And as you know, the STS-135 flight crew arrived yesterday afternoon, and Commander Chris Ferguson and his crew are very excited to be here and ready to get on with launch countdown and get to launch on Friday. I'll go through a quick summary of the launch countdown events scheduled for the week. Our operations today, launch countdown call to stations is set for 12:30 p.m. today, and the countdown clock will begin counting at 1. We'll pick up with the checkout and configuration of Atlantis' avionics systems, and we'll continue with several other vehicle configuration and ground verifications, all leading up to our first major milestone on Wednesday morning with the loading of Atlantis' onboard liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen tanks used for the electrical power generation system. Loading will start at 10:30 a.m. and finish at 3:30 p.m. Later Wednesday night, we'll pick up with the Space Shuttle main engine checkouts. And as we move into Thursday morning, we'll pick up with the checkout of the orbiter and ground communications network at 9:30 a.m. The retraction of the rotating service structure is at 2 p.m. on Thursday afternoon. And we'll begin clearing the launch pad at 9 p.m. Thursday evening, leading to the external tank loading from 2:01 a.m. to 5:01 a.m. Friday morning. Let's see, the final inspection team and the closeout crew will proceed to the launch pad just after 5 a.m. to inspect the vehicle and prepare Atlantis for the flight crew to arrive just after 8 a.m. Friday morning. Our launch window for Friday is approximately 10 minutes in length, and it opens at 11:21 a.m. on Friday, and we generally target the middle of that window, which correlates to about 11:26 a.m. And as always, we'll sync up with day of launch parameters, and the actual launch time will be updated during the T-9 minute hold on Friday. The STS-135 mission is a 12-day mission with 0 contingency days and 2 weather contingency days. Our end of mission landing is planned at KSC at approximately 6:57 a.m. on Wednesday, July 20th. And should we use one of those weather contingency days, end of mission landing would be at 6 a.m. on Thursday, July 21st. So in summary, all of our vehicle and ground systems are ready. The STS-135 crew, Atlantis, and the launch team are all ready to proceed with launch countdown, and we're looking forward to getting underway with count and leading to a spectacular launch on Friday morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe.
Thank you. Well, good morning. As Jeremy said, we're excited to be here. I hope everybody had a good 4th of July weekend. This is going to be an exciting week for everyone. I'd like to thank you for your support. And this is a very special mission for us. Last year, a little over a year ago, Casey was asked to do some unique work in the module. We were asked to redesign our storage racks in order to allow more storage, weight-wise and volume-wise, to be brought up on this mission. And we were also asked to keep the hatch open as late as possible. With the original launch date, I think was June, we actually would have been coming to pad L-12, which is kind of unique. So we adhered to that, and everything went really well when it came to storage ops. One of the primary objectives of this mission is to resupply ISS for 1 year, and we're going to perform that. We're going to perform that task. We're also going to bring to the ISS a first-of-its-kind robotic refueling mission. So payloads are looking fantastic. We have no issues. We look forward to a launch on July 8th, and I look forward to a very detailed payload briefing on L-1. So today, at 12:30, you're going to be given a KC payload demonstration, one of our forward osmosis bag experiments. So I look forward to that. And then tomorrow at 2:30, our robotic refueling team is going to give a demonstration, an experiment. And then, of course, I'll see you here at L-1 again at 10 o'clock for a very detailed briefing on our payloads. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe. Kathy.
Good morning. Well, I wish I had better weather briefing for you, but it does look like we are going to have some weather, at least potential for weather in the area for launch time. Right now we are going with a 60% chance of KSE weather prohibiting launch due to the potential for showers and isolated thunderstorms in the area. What's going to happen is the next few days we're going to have some good weather, but then we have an easterly wave that comes into the area on Thursday, bringing a lot of shower activity in with it. Usually with easterly waves we get a lot of showers, not necessarily a lot of thunderstorm activity, but some isolated activity. Then as it pushes in, it's going to really moisten up our atmosphere. So by Friday, we do expect the sea breeze to be developing around the time of the launch window, and showers and even potentially an isolated storm to develop along that sea breeze as it forms. So our primary concern for launch will be showers and thunderstorms within 20 nautical miles of the shuttle landing facility for our return to launch site abort weather, and also cumulus cloud development within 10 nautical miles of the launch pad. There's also several other constraints that could be violated, such as ceiling or a flight through precip constraint, but those are our primary concerns. Let's go ahead and look at a satellite picture. You can see on the satellite down around Hispaniola and the Turks and Caicos Islands is the area where that easterly wave is now. These waves are pretty typical for us this time of year, and they just ride along the south side of the ridge. We'll come right into Florida on Thursday. All the weather associated with the wave is on the east side of the wave, so the weather will be the wave is actually just to the west of all that activity you see there. So that'll all be moving in on Thursday. Again, atmosphere will moisten up. We have real high moisture on Friday, and when we have high moisture, particularly in the low levels, we can pop those thunderstorms and showers early when the sea breeze forms. Let's go ahead and get into our tanking forecast. For tanking, overall weather looks pretty good. We do expect showers in the area associated with the easterly wave. We'll probably see a lot of shower activity and some isolated, potential for some isolated thunderstorms. So with that, we did go with a 20% chance of KSE weather prohibiting tanking. As we go into our launch forecast, we do have potential again for showers and thunderstorms to develop along the sea breeze. Winds will be along the coast from the southeast or south-southeast, and then back at the SLF there'll be a little bit more from the southwest. Again, the sea breeze will be forming. We get low-level convergence. We get the rising air, and that's what gives us those showers and storms. So with that, we have a 60% chance of KSE weather prohibiting launch. As we go into the SRB recovery forecast, weather looks overall pretty good out there. There is a chance for some showers and thunderstorms over the Gulf Stream, but generally the weather is good with seas just 3 to 4 feet and winds peaking about 12 knots. So overall good weather for SRB recovery. Just might have to deal with a little bit of showers and storms. For the abort landing sites in the U.S., Space Flight Meteorology Group is forecasting great weather both at Edwards and at Northrop. Real nice, decent winds and pretty clear skies, just scattered at 20,000 at Northrop. And for the TAL sites, weather is really looking great all 3 days for the TAL sites. For the first day, you're just looking at few clouds at Zaragoza, and you can see sky clear there at Morone, and just few clouds there at Istris, and winds are all pretty light. So very good weather for the TAL sites for launch day. If we do happen to delay 24 hours, the moisture just gradually starts to decrease. Also, our launch time gets earlier, and so that helps us in that the sea breeze will be developing, but we won't get as much development before or by the launch window. So what we are doing is trending our numbers down. So on day 2, we have a 40% chance of KSE weather prohibiting launch. For the abort landing sites in the U.S., Space Flight Meteorology Group is forecasting great weather at both Edwards and Northrop Field. And then at the TAL sites again, Space Flight Meteorology Group is saying the weather looks pretty good there overall, with no violations for the 24-hour delay. If we do happen to delay 48 hours, weather improves quite a bit here because we get a lot drier. And with that launch time moving earlier also, the sea breeze just really won't quite be getting as much development. And so with that, we decrease the number to a 30% chance of KSE weather prohibiting launch. Again, the abort landing sites in the U.S. look great for the 48-hour delay. And the TAL sites, just one violation is Zaragoza, forecast by Space Flight Meteorology Group, just a chance for thunderstorms within 20 nautical miles. But as you see, Maroon and Istris look great. So overall, our primary concern for launch will be showers and thunderstorms developing along the sea breeze as it forms on Friday. And with that, we have a 60% chance of KSE weather prohibiting launch. Kendria?
Thank you. When the microphone comes your way, please state your name, affiliation, and to whom you're addressing your question. Let's start over here with Marcia, please.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Kathy. What time do you expect all this terrible weather to start forming on Friday?
I think it'll be at the end, near the end of the countdown. Once we get to around that 11 a.m. time period, I think we're going to already start seeing cumulus clouds developing pretty much after 11 a.m.
So the rest, earlier in the morning, it should be okay.
It should be, right. We are going to be watching the residual effects of that tropical wave. At some point, all that's going to kind of decrease as that wave moves off to the west, and so it looks good overall in the morning. But again, it's that sea breeze that we're mainly concerned about.
And for Joe, I know that the big payload briefing is later in the week, but we keep hearing how many pounds of items need to be transferred, but could you say how many individual items that each crew member is going to have to haul across the threshold, or at least give an estimate of the numbers?
Yeah, storage-wise, which is, ISS supplies and personal items and spare parts for experiments, things like that, is approximately 8,200 pounds. Okay, now if you take the bags that are associated with that and the foam that we use for our ascent and vibration, it's almost 9,500 pounds. So depends which number you want. If it's just the volume-wise, how much cargo, it's 8,200. The actual amount that's going between the modules, almost 9,500, because they come in bags, storage bags.
Pieces of things
Oh my Lord!
Pick up and carry. That's what I'm.
Yeah, there's let's see. I have a 10-page map, and each page probably has a dozen items on it. So there's hundreds of items that are going to go into the ISS. Hundreds. Yeah, I'll have a more exact number for you on Friday, but it's a lot. We're not the heaviest, but volume-wise we're the most. We've never carried this amount of payload up volume-wise, and that's why we're asked to modify the racks that increase the carrying capability almost a couple hundred pounds, so we could add that extra volume to the racks. So a lot of work, but we made it.
James.
James Dean with Florida Today. Jeremy, the team's reporting to the firing room this afternoon, doing so eagerly or reluctantly, or how would you describe kind of what you think is going to be the emotional feeling or mood of folks and starting the countdown?
Well, I would say the team gets into the mode of this is launch countdown, and that's really the focus that everybody has. And so once we all get into that mode, that's the work we're doing. We understand it. We do it very well, and that's what everyone focuses on. I think that the team in general is really focusing on that, and the rest of the emotion that really comes with the end of the Space Shuttle program, I think will really kind of roll in as launch is completed and we get past that. I personally am very much looking forward to getting onto console. That's a really cool job. It's a really great time for us to go do that, and to do it one more time is a great feeling. And
I wondered if you could characterize the importance, hopes you have to get off on your first attempt on Friday to preserve that +1 option. How much of a bonus would that be? Or I assume it's not something where obviously you wouldn't postpone just for that reason or anything, right? But just how much how helpful would it be to be able to get off that first day, or disappointing if you couldn't?
Right. I know that it is a goal to try and get that one extra day, that 13th day. But we really have to look at, the day of launch parameters that are presented to us on launch day, and we have to do the smart thing and the safe thing. And we'll do everything that we can to launch on Friday. But if things don't work out so that we can do that, we've got plenty of options to look at Saturday and Sunday, and then we do have some constraints that roll into the range schedule after that. But I think that our focus is to get launched safely and successfully, and if that is on Friday, that's great. But if we need to delay till Saturday or Sunday, that's fine too.
Bill Harwood, CBS News, with two quick ones for Jeremy. One, I know Mike always checks with the authorities about crowd estimates. Have you heard an updated estimate of what folks are expecting on Friday in your office? And secondly, is there any update to your strategy about, if you get into a weather problem and late in the count, there's a scrub, Saturday versus Sunday just based on the crowd?
Yeah, our crowd numbers are really back up to where they were for STS-133, and the first attempt for 134 in the 500 to 750,000. That's really kind of the prediction that we're working to. So a lot, Friday morning, kids are out of school. It's a great opportunity for folks to come watch the last launch. So with that, we really are working to the same kind of rules that we were previously. That L-4 time frame, launch -4 time frame as our decision point. Again, it really is all dependent on what we see that day and the types of issues that come up, how the weather is developing, and again, we'll talk with all the right folks and make that decision on launch day.
Okay. Dan.
Yeah, Dan Billow from Channel 2 for Kathy. Would you put yourself in the shoes of a spectator? And even if you wind up with acceptable launch conditions Friday morning, what is the chance that there will be a lot of cloud cover around Central Florida with all of the moisture in the air? For if you're watching from US 1,
I would say if you're trying to watch from, say, Orlando, it'd probably be tough, or somewhere further off to the west, it'd be a little bit harder to see because the sea breeze would be developing and you'd have some clouds between you and the launch. If you're right here along the coast, it will depend on where that sea breeze is focused, but I do think that eventually the coast will clear out, so the question will be how quickly will that clear out when it comes to the launch itself. If we are green for launch, it's likely that you'll be able to see that launch if you're here along the coast. But if you're off to the west, it's going to be a lot tougher due to all the clouds in the area.
So you don't necessarily expect a kind of an overcast type of a lot of cloud cover right in this vicinity?
The only overcast that we're thinking is maybe right around that high cloud area, the 25,000-foot area. So you still would see a decent amount of the launch. Again, if you're inland, then you wouldn't. But right here along the coast, it wouldn't be like the last launch. We had that stratocumulus cloud, solid deck in the low levels. It's not like that. It's more of the cumulus clouds, summertime bubbly, tropical type weather that we're looking for.
Okay. Ken.
Hi, Ken Kramer for Spaceflight Magazine for Jeremy. I'm just wondering about this fuel valve that you switched out. Is there any update on a contamination you found? This was this little particle, 5 to 8 microns. Have you found anything else? The other thing I'm wondering is, I guess you tested this then at ambient temperature. Do you gain any confidence if you could test this at cryogenic temperatures? Thank you.
Well, as far as contamination goes, I don't have any further update on that. We can get that information and work that through Candria, as well as I'm not a technical expert on the valve, so the testing the testing we're able to do is at ambient temperatures. As we saw with the tanking test, it was a great opportunity to see what we had as far as our vehicle configuration goes. And we did pick up and identify the problem. So but we've gone through and done all the work. We've changed out the valve, done all the retest work that we needed to. The valve's working great, and we don't have any expectation that there's going to be any issue when we go load on Friday. So I think we're in really good shape as far as the main fuel valve goes.
Okay, Robert.
Hi, Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com with a question for Jeremy. Given that this is the last shuttle countdown, do you expect any additional ceremony at the start of the countdown or throughout the as the count progresses? Any additional will you take any additional time to mark this milestone?
Well, the great thing about putting together a launch countdown schedule is you account for every single second and every job that you need to accomplish to get to launch countdown. All of that work takes up all the time that we account for in launch countdown. So we're going to treat this launch exactly the way we have treated every launch up to this point, and the celebrations will take place after launch. But I'm sure a lot of folks will be marking those milestones in their head as very exciting times, but we don't have any specifically planned milestones called out during the launch countdown.
Kevin.
Kevin Oliver with WFTV. A question for Joe. Since it's the last launch and you have a full payload, have you had to turn down a number of requests for people wanting items to fly on the last space shuttle? Can you give us a sense of anything that you've had to turn away?
Yeah, that's a good question. There were items that just couldn't make our milestones to be at the SSPF by a certain time, have the crew come do a bench review, turn it over to our team and pack it. There were a few items, but there weren't as many as the previous missions. By keeping the hatch open as late as possible, going to the pad as late as possible, increasing our weight and getting the word out a little bit earlier, for the most part we did okay. It wasn't too bad. And by doing that, it also allowed to pull back some of our mid-deck items into the MPLM, which opened up our mid-deck. So overall, it was not as bad as other missions, but there were a few items, but nothing I can just think of, so it wasn't that bad.
Todd.
Todd Halverson of Florida Today with one and a follow. First for Joe, I'm wondering if you can compare the amount of mass or volume you're taking up on this mission with other cargo carriers that fly to the station, the Progress ATV, the HTV.
I remember back on ULF-2, we flew up lots of racks. We flew up lots of Eclipse racks, if you guys remember that. And then 17A and so on. We flew up the, if you remember, we flew up the waste hygiene rack. We flew up crew quarters. We flew up Melfi science racks. So the module itself has a fantastic capability to bring huge items. And as you saw from ULF-2 and 17A and 19A and here we are on 135, we got those big items on station, and that's a good thing. The future other modules, if I can use that word, or other vehicles that we fly into station, their objective again will be to keep resupplying the ISS and bringing up certain experiments and stowage items. Nothing is going to have the volume-wise like the MPLM does. You can't bring up 16 science racks or 16 fully loaded racks on other vehicles, but you do have the capability to bring up, resupply items. So we'll always have the capability to resupply station. You just don't have the volume-wise like we did on the MPLM to bring up, we'll say, 16 science racks at one time.
And for Jeremy, if for weather or other reasons you do not get off by Sunday, I think you have a range conflict with the Delta. In that event, would you stand down to top off PRSD, and if so, or if not, when would be the next shuttle launch opportunity after that?
Yeah, if we got to that condition, essentially we'll take our best 2 out of 3 days for the 8th through the 10th. We would stand down to support the Delta launch. And assuming that they launched on the 14th and didn't have a delay of their own, we would have opportunities from the 16th through the 31st, and then we would get into a beta angle cutout. Once we were through the beta angle cutout on the 15th, we'd then also be able to pick up on the August 16th. So the earliest after the Delta cutout would be on the 16th. And what we would do is we would basically back all the way out of launch countdown and then get back into launch countdown. So we'd kind of reset, start over, and that would allow us to get a full load of PRSD and have the full capability going into the next opportunity starting on the 16th.
Okay, we have time for one final question. Pete.
Excuse me. Pete Crow, Grove's Daily. This is for Jeremy. Does the failure to inability to launch on perhaps day 1 or 2 impact the ability to fly that extra day? My understanding was that that decision would be made somewhere out around day 4 or 5.
It does. The challenge is the longer that we stay on the ground, the more onboard cryos we boil off, and so we don't take that capability with us if we launch later than on Friday. But again, all of those calculations and that data will be evaluated once we're on orbit, and the team at JSC will take a look at what we launch with, the amount that we have on board, and determine if they're able to work out that additional day.
That's all the time we have for the pre-countdown status briefing today. As Jeremy mentioned, the countdown officially begins at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. That won't be shown live on NASA TV, but please join us at 12:30 p.m. for a live demonstration of the forward osmosis experiment. For more information on the STS-135 mission and crew, please visit www.nasa.gov/shuttle. Thank you.